man.
By his hand will be lifted up!
That's why we have his logo seen on our backs. You're an old man's battle fodder, killing everyone and everything.
We're not to blame!
Then who killed the world?
Who killed the world? How did this happen? Why did the world burn like a grilled cheese sandwich, unattended? In the Mad Max movies, we are given few clues. In the opening of Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, a film reel plays, relaying a patina of information with little context, like a substitute teacher with instructions to show the students a movie in a dark classroom to shut them up. Two nations went to war over oil, a limited resource hoarded by major powers to control lesser powers, given even greater importance by these powers sabotaging advances in alternative methods of energy. Scarcity has always been the excuse for hoarding wealth and resources, a paradox of cause and effect that the wealthy and the powerful hope we never notice. In 2015, director George Miller presented us with Mad Max Fury Road, arguably his second best film after Babe Pig in the City. I know that the placement and wording of what I just uttered makes that statement appear facetious, but it is not. Babe 2 is the best movie I have ever seen this week, but I am not here to talk about Babe 2. I am here to eat tacos. In preparation for the release of the interminably delayed Furiosa, the first Mad Max film in nearly a decade, I decided to rewatch the previous car explosions masquerading as cohesive narratives. Experiencing art is an adventure that I take deadly seriously. When I watch a horror movie, I turn the lights down low to allow for whatever monsters are hiding under my bed the opportunity to devour me. When I watch a movie from my childhood, I eat candy, brain-jacking myself into believing I am young Leon, the boy of infinite imagination and less than infinite friends. I like Skittles the best because they taste good and it's fun to say the word Skittles. To better experience the Mad Max movies, I concluded that I would participate in the narrative of scarcity by purchasing 12 tacos and portion them out to myself over the course of this movie marathon. If I ran out of tacos before the last Mad Max movie, then I would prove that the major powers were correct, that people cannot make decisions for themselves about resources and that they must be hoarded and controlled by the few. If I still had tacos, then the opposite would be true. Oh, don't worry, I'm only going to be modestly political in this video, at best. That was the old me. Much like Max Rakatansky himself, I'm tired of trying to save the world, as if inserting myself into other people's problems is going to solve them. I assure you, gentle viewer, that this video really is mostly just about watching movies and eating tacos. Ever since Demolition Man, tacos have been the food of the dystopian future, unless you saw the movie during its European release.
I would like you to accompany me to Pizza Hut.
I got into my beat-up car that was used when I bought it, and used up now, and purchased 12 tacos from a fast food restaurant. I don't want to say which one. It's probably the one you think, but I don't want to give anyone the impression that this is an advertisement. Nobody pays me to tell anyone to eat tacos. I have no sponsors. I do have a Patreon, so if you would like to buy me more tacos, that would be cool. Anyway, let's begin our road trip. I hope you brought some bottled water, first to drink and then to urinate inside, because we are not stopping until we get there.
In the not-too-distant future, the only hope for mankind will be the Main Force Patrol and Max. His only weapon, 600 horses of fuel-injected vengeance. Mad Max, the maximum force of the future. Rated R.
I pressed play and saw the familiar MGM logo.
Yum 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 yum. Yum 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 yum.
And I was off to the races. The film opens with an Australian outlaw cutting a professional wrestling promo.
I'm a fuel-injected suicide machine.
The police employ a double-barrel shotgun to no avail. Knight Rider dies, his eyes bulging out of their sockets, as all men do when they die, I'm told. I ate a taco in his honor. 11 tacos remain. An American watching an Australian film teaches the American a thing or two about another culture, but an American watching a science fiction Australian film has him wondering whether the slang in the film is a product of Australia or make-believe future slang that is often used to decorate sci-fi.
You better send a meat truck. Charlie's cocked a saucepan in the throat.
Okay, that clearly means ambulance, and the Urban Dictionary backs me up. Real term, not sci-fi term.
Anyone so much as breathes out cheesy.
Again, that one I understand in context. Gunshot wound, Swiss cheese. Yet I cannot find its usage anywhere else, possibly because cheese is so frequently used and overused in slang. In fact, there is Australian slang for wife called cheese and kisses, because kisses rhymes with misses, but why cheese and kisses in the first place? Apparently there is a lot of rhyming slang in both Australia and the United Kingdom in which cheese features greatly. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm also not sure where Cockney people were going with this. My completely unnecessary focus on cheese provoked a Pavlovian response to eat another taco, although I am not 100% certain that the cheesy contents of this taco came from an animal. I suspect a 3D printer was involved. Max has a tender moment with his cheese and kisses.
Crazy about you.
Aw, I wish someone were crazy about me. Or maybe someone is and I just don't know it. Mad Max takes place in the near future, but the status quo is left ambiguous. Later films would be set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, but the first film has no sigh in its fi. If someone were to watch Mad Max with the sound off, that someone would not necessarily register that it's taking place in a world suffering from scarcity. More like a town with one or two motorcycle gangs that spend a lot of time thinking about their aesthetic. A town with saxophone music and, gosh, not a whole lot happens in this movie, does it? A lifetime of violence won't lead to happiness and won't make the world any better. Max learns a valuable lesson. The only good cop is one who quits. Unfortunately, without his badge to protect him, he discovers that in the future, men are 2.6 more disgusting than before. Max's family becomes a memory, and nobody ever saw Mel Gibson again. I took a short break and prepared myself for the greatest sequel of all time, Babe, Pig in the City. Yeah, when I said I would not be talking about Babe, Pig in the City, I lied. It's my video, I'll do what I want. Seriously, I watched it right after Mad Max, and I ate one of my tacos as well. I assumed I had enough. Babe 2 is a story about class war, and how it intersects with racism. Babe needs to go to the city to earn money to save the farm, but he is confronted by wealthy chimpanzees who treat pigs and other animals as genetically inferior. Babe forms a revolutionary coalition, and I know, it sounds like I'm exaggerating its inherent politics for laughs or to wedge in my own politics, but seriously, that is the unambiguous plot of Babe, Pig in the City. It's really good, and also, there's a pink poodle, which is always a plus. George Miller directed this film, and he also co-wrote and co-produced it. Okay, then I watched Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior.
I gotta eat.
There's something over there. Can't get anywhere. Just down the road away. Anytime, any day. It's what's happening next. It's where best meets west. You gotta cross it, jump it, bust it, bump it. You gotta cross it, jump it, bust it, bump it. Taco Bell at your order. Make a run for the border.
I pressed play and saw the Warner Brothers logo. What does it mean to be Warner Brothers today in 2024? Do we really associate Warner Brothers Discovery with Looney Tunes and Shark Week? Warner Brothers had this identity for a long time because of its related cartoons and Dancing Dead Frog Network. This frog is dead. This frog's entire thing is that he's dead and he was the mascot that introduced us to Dawson's Creek, but it was still a kind of brand identity. Not quite on the level of Disney's brand identity, but still something. Still associated with warm feelings of childhood that last into adulthood. I don't know what Warner Brothers Discovery is today except the thing that's keeping Hollywood accountants in business post-pandemic. Mad Max 2 starts with a recap of Mad Max 1. In the first film, the world of Mad Max felt less like an apocalypse and more like a small town where all the stores closed at 7 p.m. Nothing to do, but it's not like it's the end of the world. But Mad Max 2 is like the end of the world. All of a sudden, the color green has been outlawed by God. Everything fell apart when that one mechanic died. He was really keeping it all together, and Max just had to crush him under the weight of a car for funsies. Max stumbles upon a town full of people trying to make it work in the post-gig economy. A town harassed and threatened by Lord Humongous, a hockey enthusiast and probable leather fetishist who roams the Australian outback in search of creatine shakes and chest wax. He sometimes comes upon towns to devour for protein. Lord Humongous is less of a character and more of a force of nature, like Max himself. He just shows up out of nowhere to growl his orders at helpless strangers. We don't really see Lord Humongous do much in this movie, but we do hear his hype man extol his virtues and prattle off various nicknames that Lord Humongous obviously gave himself.
The warrior of the wasteland! The Ayatollah of rock and roller!
Professional wrestlers love this movie. They have been ripping it off for decades. A wrestler from the 1980s simply called himself the Lord Humongous and wore a hockey mask. The Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, Demolition, certainly. The Master Blasters, though that's from the next movie. Max reluctantly joins up with the town and their righteous cause. The people want to live on the coast and use what supplies they have to make lives for themselves. Post-apocalyptic outlaw death squads are common in sci-fi. There is not much rhyme or reason to their rise in power, though. There is a lot of evidence that tells us that in a crisis, people tend to work together. But in the Mad Max movies, people inexplicably all join motorcycle gangs and live like nomads powered by hot rods in a world with limited gasoline. If the world ends and gasoline scarcity is the root cause, why would anyone do this? If there was a post-apocalyptic wasteland of food scarcity, nobody would think to use what little food they had left for anything but eating. But Lord Humongous and his backwards brain would probably say, let's build cars out of our food and then eat the tires. Maybe that is George Miller's point, that even after we acknowledge global problems, we continue down the same path into oblivion. We can all learn something from this, except, Max does the same thing. He's our hero, but he lives the exact same let's blow through our resources lifestyle that Lord Humongous does, but on a smaller individual scale. Why would anyone be nomadic during this time of limited fuel? Max helps the townspeople ride to their new home, and then for no other reason than to set up more sequels, he leaves. He drives his car and burns through more fuel on his never-ending quest to be in motion, with no particular goal or rationale for this. It would simply not serve the series if Max were to settle down and enjoy his life. You can't have Max be happy. He's too mad for that. I ate some tacos, my scarce fuel, and prepared to go beyond, something or other.
If you live long enough, eventually someone's going to say the word Thunderdome in your presence. Boy, I still think we really screwed up on that whole Thunderdome fiasco.
Oh, come on. Can't we just get...
The men do the hunting. You ladies cook what we kill.
Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome, was given a Herculean task: make a Mad Max film rated PG-13. With the success of The Road Warrior, producers gathered around a mahogany table and said, "We need to capitalize on the success of our R-rated franchise by appealing to a wider audience, potentially alienating our current audience, and increasing the budget, knowing full well that sequels tend to make less than the original." This was before Marvel, of course. Beyond Thunderdome takes place some time after The Road Warrior, in which Max is once again forced to do the thing he hates most: interact with other human beings. He enters the Elimination Chamber to reclaim his stolen property. gets pounded into the dirt, and meets the Lost Boys. In concept, I love this. The children of planet Earth are too young to know what the world once was, too young to know what the world could have been. I am now at an age in which I wonder how different the world feels to young people compared to how the world felt to me as a child. People born in the 21st century emerged in a landscape in which the internet had already been established as a standard. The way young people view relationships were undoubtedly shaped by being children in an age of social media. I can only imagine what the world feels like to high school students and college students right now. They don't remember a pre-9/11 world. Donald Trump may have felt like a pretty normal president to them without living through too many presidents before him. We are all getting older, exactly all of us, at the exact same time and at the exact same speed, except for astronauts. I actually like the concept of Max being put in a position that humanizes him. He's a scraggly, homicidal, grindhouse anti-hero who must suddenly become foster father and the new Jesus to 30 children. Sure, Max sets people on fire and makes them hack off their own limbs, but would he be mean to a child? In the end, Max does what he does best, reluctantly help people, and then not stick around to make sure his help had any lasting effect. A few tacos later, I was finally ready to ride historic on the Fury Road.
I've lived in London cities, I've crossed deserts on camel back, and I filled the halls of folklore with things I'd rather we forget. I could shoot you in your sleep, so say you this is goddamn tough, but this town might be big enough for both of us.
Mad Max Fury Road is the first film in the series in which Mel Gibson has no role. In the years between the third and fourth entries, Gibson revealed himself to be one of the worst scumbags imaginable. Gosh, he was so irredeemably awful that he was blacklisted for like 5 whole years before returning to the spotlight, having learned nothing and made no meaningful change to his terrible worldviews and behavior. Fury Road was released in that glorious period in which Gibson was still on the shelf, and Tom Hardy took over to the delight of basically everyone. Fury Road once again features Max stumbling into a crisis in which he is only partially involved, giving way to introduce us to Furiosa and her crew of escapees. Will Max gradually warm up to his new acquaintances and help them survive? Yes, he will. Mad Max just wants to be left alone to pursue his dream of doing nothing, but he keeps making friends along the way. We could say that this is part of his character arc, but then he starts over at the beginning of each movie, relearning the same lesson, then abandoning this lesson due to his driving off in the distance fetish. Max is less of a character and more of a myth. That's the appeal, I get it, but that also makes him the least interesting character in his own shared movie continuity, at least after the first film in which he seems to have his own feelings and desires. With this in mind, George Miller effectively agreed with this sentiment and made a Mad Max movie without much in the way of Mad Max. And so I watched one of the greatest prequels ever made. Babe 1, Pig in the Country. So, the first Babe movie was not directed by George Miller like the sequel, but it was produced and co-written by Miller. Babe has been his baby for a long time. So in Babe, a heroic underdog underpig tries to go on with his life after the tragic death of his mother, which is also the plot of Furiosa, I know, but in Babe, our hero suffers under the rule of a leader who believes in biological determinism, and yes, that is also true of Immortan Joe in Furiosa, but it's not the same movie because in Babe, our hero is told to accept the way things are and refuses, and you know what, it is the same movie. Both franchises also have milking scenes. I don't know what that's about. You can draw your own conclusions, your own weird conclusions about that specifically. And so I set off to watch the most recent film in the Mad Max saga. Furiosa had an impossible task in front of it. First, it needed to follow Fury Road, arguably the best in the series and certainly the most well-regarded among critics and audiences. Second, it had to convince Mad Max fans that a Mad Max movie could work without Mad Max. Third, it had to be both a prequel and not suck. A task occasionally achieved, but usually by barely acknowledging its prequelness, and George Miller pretty much crushed it. Miller accomplished the first mission by existing in the same world, and even the same region as Fury Road while changing the style and structure. He accomplished the second mission almost by default. Mad Max fans have long understood that he is narratively just along for the ride, and Miller accomplished the third mission by just not giving a f***. Prequels exist with spoilers baked in, but suspension of disbelief is part of the movie experience to begin with. It's about quality and making people feel things, not whether or not the hero will die at the end, which is rare to begin with. I particularly enjoyed the face-off between the two monstrous villains. Maybe this is just me, but I love it when evil guys are at odds with each other in fiction, and one is more resolute while the other is more goofy or more human. Who will be crowned the King Pope of Shit Town? But yeah, Furiosa was really good and mostly worth the wait. I don't care about the CGI stuff, I just don't, okay? Good-looking stuff is good-looking stuff. With no tacos in the boxos, you might think I failed to ration my dirty dozen throughout all 5 Mad Max movies. However, I also watched both Babe movies during this, and I didn't run out until the middle of Babe 1. Yes, I did watch them in reverse order. Babe 1 was the 6th of 7 movies I watched, passing the original total of 5 I planned to watch. Therefore, I won my own challenge by my own convoluted logic. Besides, how can anyone be a loser with 12 tacos in their belly? That makes me a winner.
That'll do, pig.
Hi everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and check out my Patreon to support this channel. I'll see you soon.